Welcome to Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin.
But today, we're going to pivot. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about the relationship, the one you have with yourself, and more specifically, why that particular relationship might be the very reason you are just absolutely exhausted right now.
You know, it's a timely pivot because I think regardless of what the date on the calendar says, the feeling we're tackling today it's just universal.
It is.
It's that heavy sort of dragging sensation that hits you even when, on paper, everything in your life is fine.
Exactly. And that is the hook for today. I want you, the listener, to do a quick body scan right now. Wherever you are, in the car, at the gym, walking the dog, just check in for a second. Are you tired?
And be honest with yourself about it.
Yeah. And I don't mean I stayed up too late watching a movie, kind of tired. I don't mean I just ran a 5K tired. I mean that deep down in your marrow level of exhaustion where sleep doesn't even seem to touch it.
The kind where you wake up after a full 8 hours and still feel like you're dragging a parachute behind you all day.
Right. And maybe your workload isn't even that crushing. Maybe you're actually on top of your emails for once, but you just feel drained, hollowed out.
And that's the paradox we really want to dig into, that disconnect between I rested my body and I am still profoundly tired.
So to help us solve this mystery, we are unpacking a really, really fascinating source today. It's an episode from Coffee Break. It's number 058 to be exact, and it's titled The Fatigue of False Identity.
A great title.
It is, but the subtitle is what really just grabbed me by the shoulders. It says, "You're not burned out. You're tired of being who everyone expects you to be."
Wow. Yeah, that's a powerful distinction. And it's one that I think most of us, we just miss it completely. We lump it all together.
We do. So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to explore this idea that we get tired, not from what we do, not the emails, not the projects, not the meetings, but from who we are pretending to be while we do them.
That's the nut of it right there.
We're going to look at the difference between that physical burnout and this identity fatigue. We'll talk about the hidden cost of being the reliable one. And then finally, how to start fixing it without, blowing up your entire life.
And I think it's crucial to set the context here because this is really important. This conversation isn't necessarily for the person who actively hates their job.
Right.
If you hate your job, you probably know exactly why you're tired. It's not a mystery.
No mystery there.
This source, it's really targeting the high performers, the people who, from the outside, look like they have it all together.
The people who look like they're winning?
Exactly. The entrepreneurs, the leaders, the perfect parents. Let's create an archetype for our conversation today. Let's call her Sarah.
Okay, Sarah.
Sarah is a VP at her company. She hits every target. Her team loves her. She has a nice house, 2 great kids. But when she gets in the car to drive home from work, she drives in complete silence.
Oh, I know that silence.
Right. She can't even handle the sensory input of the radio. She is functioning at an incredibly high level, but the battery is just dead.
I think we all know Sarah. I think a lot of us are Sarah in some part of our lives.
No doubt.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with that core definition because the source makes this really hard distinction between physical burnout and identity fatigue. And I think most of us, we just use the word burnout as this big catch-all phrase for I'm done, I'm fried.
It's a verbal shrug. I'm burned out.
Yeah. But the source argues they are completely different mechanisms with different causes and different cures.
They are. And that's why this distinction is so vital. Because if you misdiagnose the problem, you're going to apply the wrong solution. If you treat identity fatigue like it's physical burnout, you're putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. It does nothing.
Okay, so let's break it down then. In the context of this source, what is physical burnout? Let's start there.
So if we look at the source material, it defines physical, or maybe better, workload burnout as a volume issue.
A volume issue.
It's a simple equation of inputs and outputs. You have too many tasks, too many hours, too much physical or mental strain. It's just math.
Right. You did 100 things today, but you only had the energy for 80. So you're 20 units in debt.
Precisely. You're in an energy deficit. And the cure for that, generally speaking, is rest. It's replenishment.
Vacation.
Yeah, you take a week off and go sit on a beach, or you reduce your hours, or you just sleep for a whole weekend. And what happens?
You feel better.
You generally feel better. Your tank actually refills. It's like a phone battery. You see it's at 10%, you plug it into the wall, and the number goes up. Simple.
But identity fatigue is not that simple.
Not at all. It's a completely different beast. Identity fatigue isn't about the volume of work. It's about the nature of the work. Specifically, it's about the work of performance. The source describes this as the deep exhaustion that comes from maintaining an image or playing a role that isn't aligned with who you actually are or how you actually feel inside.
So let's go back to our phone analogy. If workload burnout is a dead battery that just needs a recharge,
Yeah.
what is identity fatigue?
Identity fatigue is having a background app that's constantly glitching out.
A background app. I like that.
Think about it. You know when you pick up your phone and it's hot to the touch even though the screen has been off?
Yeah, the battery has just plummeted.
Exactly. It's because some process you can't even see, maybe it's GPS, maybe it's trying to sync 1,000 photos to the cloud, is running this complex, energy-intensive loop over and over and over again. It drains the battery even if you aren't actively using the phone.
So in this scenario, Sarah, our VP, she could go on that vacation. She could go sit on a beach in the Maldives for 7 days straight. But the source suggests that the moment she wakes up on her first day back, she's instantly exhausted again. Why?
Because that background app never stopped running. The vacation treated the symptom, the tiredness, but not the cause. And the moment she walks back into that office, she has to put the costume back on.
The costume.
Rest doesn't fix identity fatigue because rest doesn't change the role you have to play. If the exhaustion is coming from the act of pretending to be confident when you're terrified, pretending to be cheerful when you're sad, pretending to be the all-knowing expert when you feel lost, then simply sleeping doesn't remove that burden.
The burden is the mask itself.
The burden is the mask.
I want to push on that a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Because the word pretending, I don't know, it sounds a little fake, a little inauthentic. It makes me think of imposters.
Sure.
But Sarah isn't a fake. She's actually good at her job. She is competent. So is it really pretending or is it just being professional?
That is such a great question, and it's a really important nuance. It's not pretending in the sense of lying about your skills or your credentials. It's more about suppression. It's about the energy burned in the gap between your internal state and your external presentation.
The gap. Okay, give me an analogy.
Okay, let's imagine you're at a swimming pool. Swimming laps is hard work. That's workload burnout. Your muscles ache, you get out of breath. But when you stop, you rest and you recover.
Got it. Standard physical exertion.
Right. Now imagine instead of swimming, you just stand in the shallow end of the pool and you hold a big inflatable beach ball underwater.
Okay, I can picture that.
To the person standing on the pool deck looking at you, what are you doing?
Nothing, really.
Right.
I'm just standing there. I probably look calm, relaxed even.
Exactly. You look calm, you look stable, functioning well. But under the surface of the water, what are your muscles actually doing?
Oh, they're on fire. They're trembling. I'm fighting the natural buoyancy of the ball. I'm constantly adjusting my grip, my stance, so the thing doesn't just shoot up and smack me in the face.
That constant, quiet, static tension. That is identity fatigue. The tremulous force required to keep your true feelings, your doubts, your insecurities, your exhaustion submerged so no one else can see them is infinitely more draining than just swimming the laps.
And the source points out this is specifically why it's so relevant for those high-functioning people we mentioned.
Right.
The ones who look fine.
Right, because if you drop the beach ball, everyone sees it. It makes a splash. If you just stop showing up to work or you start breaking down in meetings, people notice. They'll say, hey, what's wrong? You should take a break.
They see the burnout.
But when you are suffering from identity fatigue, you are usually performing the role of the strong leader or the perfect parent. You are holding that ball underwater with a calm smile on your face.
So the better you are at the performance, the more invisible your struggle is. And the more trapped you become.
That is the insidious trap. The source uses this word performance, but it's quick to clarify that it's not about being an actor on a stage. It's the micro-performances of daily life.
What do you mean by micro-performances?
It's the way you modulate your voice in a meeting to sound more authoritative, even when you feel your stomach nodding with anxiety. It's the bright, cheerful smile you plaster on at the family gathering when you actually just want to be alone in a quiet room.
It's the customer service voice applied to your entire life.
Yes. And keeping that voice active for 16 hours a day burns more glucose. I mean, literally, biologically burns more energy than just doing the actual spreadsheet or writing the actual report.
Let's talk about that biology for a second, because I think a lot of us tend to dismiss emotional stuff as not being physically tiring. We think of it as all in our heads. But you're saying there is a real measurable physiological cost.
Absolutely, 100%. It comes down to a state of perpetual vigilance.
31.
When you are performing a role that is out of alignment with your true self, your brain is in a state of high alert. You are constantly scanning for threats to that identity. Did I sound unsure just then? Did they notice I was sweating when they asked that question? Is my mask slipping?
So your brain is basically treating a normal Tuesday morning boardroom like it's a jungle where a tiger might jump out at any moment.
From a nervous system perspective, that's exactly what's happening. It keeps your cortisol levels elevated. It keeps your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, chronically activated. And you can't sleep off a cortisol spike if the moment you wake up, the scanner just turns right back on to check if you're still safe in your role.
That makes so much sense. That explains that tired but wired feeling so many people talk about. You're exhausted, but you can't fall asleep because your mind is racing.
It's the scanner. It's that background app. In physical burnout, the muscle is tired. In identity fatigue, the mechanism that controls the muscle is stuck in the on position.
This is a perfect bridge into the next section of the source material. Because it's one thing to say we're performing, but that can sound a little vague.
Right, it can be hard to pin down.
But the source breaks this down into 3 very specific types of performance, 3 pillars of pressure that just drain us. And I want to go deep on each of these because I'm willing to bet that every single person listening, and certainly our archetype, Sarah, is going to identify strongly with at least one of them.
I'd agree with that. Let's do it.
Okay, the first pillar is performing strength, success, or stability for others.
This is the quintessential Sarah pillar. This one hits home for every entrepreneur, every manager, every leader out there.
This source talks about the immense pressure to always look like the business is thriving or that you have all the answers. They don't call it this, but I call it the burden of omniscience.
The burden of omniscience. I love that. It's so pervasive. In our current culture, especially in professional settings, there is a distinct lack of tolerance for uncertainty from our leaders.
It's seen as weakness.
Exactly. If you are a leader or even just a senior employee, the expectation, or at least the perceived expectation, is that you are a rock. You are stable. You are the anchor in the storm.
Right. You can't walk into the all-hands meeting and say, guys, I'm scared we might miss our Q3 projections and I'm not sure what to do.
No way.
You have to walk in and say, we are facing some significant headwinds, but here is our 3-point strategic roadmap to overcome them and emerge stronger.
And just notice the difference in energy between those 2 statements. The first one, I'm scared, is authentic. It's vulnerable. It actually releases tension from your body. It's honest.
It invites collaboration.
It does. The second statement requires you to process the fear, suppress it, repackage it as a challenge, invent a confident solution on the spot, and then deliver it with conviction. That entire process takes a massive amount of cognitive and emotional energy.
It's emotional labor on steroids.
It is extreme emotional labor. And the source really highlights that the core emotional cost here is the energy required to suppress your own doubt, your own fear, your own vulnerability. You are essentially fighting a war on 2 fronts.
What are the 2 fronts?
You're fighting the external problem, the actual business issue, but you are simultaneously fighting this internal civil war of not letting anyone see you sweat. And the internal war is often more exhausting than the external one.
I have to imagine this creates a profound sense of isolation, too.
That's the darkest part of this pillar, I think. The source hints at this idea that you end up feeling completely unseen, and it makes perfect sense when you think about it, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, if nobody ever gets to know the real version of you, the version that is worried, the version that sometimes doesn't know the answer, the version that's just trying to figure it out like everyone else, then nobody can actually connect with you.
Because they aren't connecting with you.
Yeah.
They're connecting with the avatar you've created.
Right. They are high-fiving the mask. You could be in a room full of admirers, employees who respect you, a family that loves you, and you can feel bone-deep lonely because you know they love the strong version. And you are terrified that if they ever saw the weak version, the real you, they would turn and walk away.
That is profound. And it's terrifying. It's like you're starving for connection in a room full of people offering you food, but you can't take the mask off to eat.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Okay, let's move to the second pillar. Because this one, I have to admit, when I read this part of the source, I felt my own defenses go up a little bit.
I think a lot of people do.
The source calls it the emotional cost of always being the reliable one.
Ah, yes. The curse of competence.
But wait, I have to stop you there. Because being reliable is a good thing. We value that. I want my kids to grow up to be reliable. My boss pays me to be reliable. If I just stop being reliable, I get fired. It feels a bit privileged or maybe just irresponsible to say, "Ooh, stop being so reliable. It's bad for your energy."
I love that pushback. And you are absolutely right. The goal isn't to become unreliable. If you just start doing your job, you get fired. That's not what the source is arguing at all.
Okay.
They're making a critical distinction between what we might call functional reliability and identity-based reliability.
Okay, parse that for me. What is the real difference between those two?
Functional reliability is transactional. It's about a task. I said I would have the report done by Friday. I have the report done by Friday. You do it, you finish it, you put it down. It has a beginning and an end.
It's about keeping your word on a specific thing.
Exactly. Identity-based reliability, on the other hand, is emotional. It is a belief about yourself. It is, I am the person who saves everyone. I am the one who holds it all together. It's not about the task anymore. It's about defending the role.
Ah, so one is a verb, I did a reliable thing, and the other's a noun, I'm a reliable person.
You've nailed it. That's the perfect distinction. And the source argues that for many high performers, this identity-based reliability is actually a deep-seated safety mechanism.
A safety mechanism.
Yeah, it's often a learned behavior from childhood or even a trauma response. It's a way of ensuring you are needed, that you are indispensable.
Because if I'm not needed,
If I'm not useful, am I still loved? Am I still safe? That's the subconscious question that's running that background app. So you have people who are drowning in work, not because their boss is a tyrant, but because they are constitutionally incapable of saying no. They're terrified of the identity crisis that would happen if they said, I can't.
it reminds me of the fixer role you sometimes see in families. There's always one sibling who organizes everything.
Right.
They handle the parents' medical appointments. They plan all the holidays. They mediate the arguments.
Yes.
And everyone else just kind of relaxes because they know, oh, Sarah will handle it. Sarah always handles it.
And Sarah is exhausted, not just because scheduling doctor's appointments is tedious, but because she feels she has no permission to be messy herself. She has no permission to be chaotic or unavailable or have a bad day. She has painted herself into a corner of competence.
So reliability becomes a prison that you build for yourself.
It becomes a magnet for responsibility. If you are the one who proves you can catch the ball every single time, people will naturally start throwing you more and more balls. And initially, that feels good. It feels like validation. Look at me, I'm so capable.
It feels like job security.
For sure. But over time, the sheer volume of balls becomes crushing. And you feel like you can't drop a single one because your entire sense of self-worth is tied up in being the catcher.
And the source points out that this creates a really toxic dynamic where you start to resent the very people you're helping.
Which is such a tragic irony, isn't it? You do all this work to be loved or appreciated, but the sheer burden of the work makes you angry and resentful toward the people you want love and appreciation from.
This is a vicious cycle.
It's a cycle that leads directly to that deep soul-level fatigue. You start looking at your friends, your family, your colleagues, not as loved ones, but as sources of demand. Your first thought is, what do they want from me now?
Oof, that hits hard. Okay, let's hit the third pillar. This one is pervasive. I think we see it everywhere. But the source uses a very interesting word to describe its effect. The pillar is people-pleasing as an energy drain.
A term we all know well, but the source emphasizes a specific word in its analysis: quietly. How people-pleasing quietly drains your energy.
It's not a dramatic explosion. It's not a big meltdown in the office.
No, it's that sneaky background app again. But I want to introduce a term here that the source hints at, which I think really elevates this whole conversation. We should talk about predictive regulation.
Predictive regulation. Okay, that sounds like something my smart thermostat does.
It's actually a very small concept. Most of us think people-pleasing is just being nice. Oh, I brought donuts for the team, or, oh, sure, I'll help you move this weekend.
Right, being agreeable.
But the source argues that for the exhausted leader, for Sarah, people-pleasing is actually a form of control.
Control. That seems completely backward.
Yeah.
The classic people pleaser is usually seen as the doormat, not the one in control.
Think about the energy expenditure, though. If I can predict exactly how you're going to react to a piece of bad news, and I can modulate my face, my tone of voice, and my timing to ensure that you don't get angry, What have I actually done?
You've managed my emotional state.
I have controlled your emotional state to keep myself safe from your anger or disappointment.
So it's high-stakes emotional manipulation.
It's defensive manipulation. It's a survival strategy learned over many years. And here is why it makes you so profoundly tired. Your brain is running a massive, complex simulation at all times.
What's the simulation?
You aren't just present in the meeting listening to the words. You are constantly calculating, okay, if I say X, Dave in accounting gets defensive. If I phrase it as Y, Susan from marketing feels minimized, so I need to say Z, but with a slight smile and a self-deprecating tone so they don't think I'm being too pushy.
Oh my gosh, I am getting tired just listening to you describe that.
Yeah.
You're not in a meeting, you're playing 4D chess with everyone else's emotions.
All day, every day, you are so busy occupying everyone else's emotional space that you have no room to occupy your own. You become a shapeshifter, contorting yourself to fit the perceived needs of the room.
Shape-shifting. That's
Yeah.
the key word there, isn't it? You are literally contorting your personality.
And contortion takes effort. Standing up straight. That takes very little muscular effort. It's our natural state. But contorting yourself into a pretzel to fit into a tiny box that someone else built for you, that requires constant, exhausting tension.
So we have these 3 core pillars. Performing strength. That's the burden of omniscience. Then there's the trap of reliability, the fear of being useless. And finally, the background drain of people-pleasing, that predictive regulation game. These are the big drivers of identity fatigue.
They are the 3 hungriest background apps draining your battery.
But here's a really tricky part. As we said at the top, high performers are good at masking this stuff. So we might be fooling ourselves. We might just be thinking, man, work is just crazy right now. It'll calm down next quarter. How do we know if it's really identity fatigue?
That's the danger zone. When you've been doing it for so long, the performance feels normal. You might think you're just busy.
Okay, so let's move into part 3, recognition. The source gives us some really concrete signs you're living to meet expectations instead of your own needs. What are the red flags we should be looking for?
The first one the source highlights, and I think this is so intuitive and so powerful, is what they call the internal disconnect, which specifically manifests as dread.
Dread, not just dislike or annoyance. Dread.
A deep physical sense of dread before events or meetings that logically shouldn't be stressful at all.
Okay, paint the picture for me. What does that look like on a typical Sunday night for Sarah?
Okay, it's Sunday night. She's winding down, maybe watching a show on HBO. The credits roll. She picks up her phone just to check the time, and she sees a calendar notification pop up for a Monday morning catch-up with a peer. Just a simple coffee chat. Or maybe it's her regular Recly team sync.
Low-stakes stuff, standard work life.
Theoretically, yes. But what happens inside her body? Her stomach just drops. Her jaw clenches. She feels this physical weight pressed down on her chest. And she finds herself secretly praying that the other person cancels. Please let them be sick. Please let a scheduling conflict come up.
Why, though? If the person is nice and the meeting is routine?
Because she knows she has to go and perform. She isn't dreading the coffee. She is dreading the immense effort of putting on the costume of the insightful peer or the motivating leader. If she could just go and sit there and be quiet and tired, she'd be fine. But the expectation of performance is what creates the dread.
That is such a good litmus test. If you are dreading things that should be fun or at least neutral, it's time to check your costume.
Exactly. Another major sign the source points to is resentment. Specifically, what I'd call the silent scream.
The silent scream. Resentment toward who?
Toward people who ask you for help, even if, and this is the absolute kicker, even if you say yes to them with a big smile on your face.
Oh, that's the reliable one trap biting back.
Yeah. It is in its most potent form. Your mouth says, sure, I can absolutely take that on for you, no problem at all. But your mind, your inner voice is just screaming, why are you asking me again? Can't you see I'm drowning over here? Why does everyone want a piece of me?
That internal fury, completely masked by external compliance and cheerfulness.
And that creates a cognitive dissonance that is incredibly draining. You're living 2 realities at once. It breeds that feeling of being consumed. Like you're not a person to be met, but a resource to be mined.
Which leads right into the third sign the source mentions. And I feel like this phrase could define a whole generation of workers. Functioning but empty.
The functioning but empty syndrome, it's an epidemic.
It really is. It's hitting your KPIs. It's Sarah getting the big promotion, closing the massive deal, seeing the bonus wire transfer hit her bank account, and feeling absolutely nothing.
Just flat. Numb. Because the victory doesn't feel like it belongs to her. It belongs to the avatar. If you spend all year acting like a ruthless shark to get the bonus, Then when you get the bonus, the shark is happy. But Sarah might just be a tired dolphin who wants to swim slowly for a while.
I love that image. The tired dolphin trapped inside the shark costume.
And that leads to what is, in my opinion, the most poignant and powerful takeaway from the entire source. They phrase it like this. You can't rest properly when you're exhausted from being someone you no longer are.
Someone you no longer are. That phrase really lands. It implies a mismatch not just in feeling, but in time.
It implies growth. This is what we can call the growth mismatch.
Talk to me more about that. What is the growth mismatch?
Sometimes the identity we are performing isn't a lie in the sense that it was never true. It might have been completely authentic 5 or 10 years ago.
What?
Maybe 5 years ago. Sarah was that scrappy hustle culture, say yes to everything startup founder. That was authentically her. She had the energy for it. It aligned with her goals.
But now
Maybe she's grown. Maybe she craves stability and mentorship more than late-night hustling. Maybe her priorities have shifted toward her family, but she is still performing the hustler role because that's what people expect of her. It's her brand. She has outgrown the shell, but she is still squeezing herself back into it every single morning.
it's like trying to wear shoes that are 2 sizes too small. You can still walk, but every single step is painful.
And no amount of sleeping at night is going to make your feet smaller. At some point, you have to accept that you need to change the shoes.
That is a perfect transition. We've defined the problem. We've diagnosed the symptoms. We know the shoes don't fit anymore. So now we have to talk about changing them. This brings us to part 4, the path forward.
And the source is very, very specific here with a critical constraint on its advice. It promises practical ways to reconnect with your authentic priorities without burning your life down.
Yes. Thank you. Because this is where the conversation usually goes off the rails. The advice is always something like quit your job, move to Bali, become a goat farmer.
Which is a lovely fantasy, but it's not a real strategy for most people.
Exactly. Sarah has a mortgage. She has kids in school. She has a team of employees who rely on her for their paychecks. She can't just drop the mic and walk out the door.
So the goal here is evolution, not destruction. We aren't trying to blow up the life you've carefully built. We're trying to renovate it so you can actually live in it comfortably.
Okay, so let's get granular and practical. Strategy number 1. The source says it all starts with identifying the performance.
Awareness is always the first step. It's the prerequisite for any meaningful change. You simply can't take off a mask if you don't realize you're wearing one.
So how do we do that practically? Not in a journal on a Sunday, but in the middle of a chaotic workday.
You have to build the muscle of catching yourself in the act. The source suggests a simple but powerful technique called the pause.
The pause, okay.
Let's say you are in a meeting. Someone on your team says something that is factually wrong. You feel that immediate physical urge to jump in, to correct them, to fix the situation, to promise a new deliverable to solve it.
The fixer reflex, the reliable one reflex.
Right. It's a tightening in the chest, an urge to speak. Before you act on that urge, you just pause for 1 second. And in that 1 second, you ask yourself one question. Am I doing this because it truly needs to be done right now by me? Or am I doing this to prove that I am smart or reliable or essential?
Ooh, that is a tough question to answer honestly in the moment.
It's brutally honest, but it helps you start to differentiate between healthy responsibility, which is just doing your job, and identity maintenance, which is doing the job to prove your worth. If you can just catch that moment of choice, you've opened up a world of possibilities.
And that new possibility leads to strategy number 2. Small adjustments toward alignment.
Small is the most important word in that phrase. We are not looking for radical 180-degree turns here. We are looking for tiny 5-degree shifts that are sustainable.
The source uses the term honest alignment. I want scripts. I want to know what Sarah actually says in that meeting after she takes the pause.
Okay, let's take the omniscient leader role. Her reflex is to perform certainty. Instead of bullshitting her way through an answer or stressing herself out to find the data immediately, she takes a breath and says, that's a great question. I don't have a full picture on that right now. Let me think on it and circle back with you this afternoon.
Let me think on it. So simple.
It's so simple, but for someone whose identity is addicted to knowing everything, that phrase is terrifying to say out loud. But guess what happens when she says it?
The world doesn't end.
The world continues to spin. Her team probably respects the honesty and thoughtfulness. And most importantly, she has just saved herself the massive energy spike of having to perform certainty when she felt uncertain. She chose authenticity.
Okay, what about the reliable one? The person who says yes to absolutely everything. How do they make a small adjustment without looking like they're slacking off or getting fired?
They set a micro boundary. It's not a giant wall that says no. It's a small fence. It's about delaying or delegating, not denying.
Okay, give me a script for that.
Someone comes to your desk and asks you to take on a new project. The old script is, sure, I'm on it. Consider it done. The new script, the 5-degree shift is, this sounds really important. I'd love to help, but looking at my bandwidth for this week, I know I won't be able to give it the attention it deserves. Can we look at tackling this next week, or is there someone else on the team who has more capacity right now?
Well, that's good. I can't give it the attention it deserves. You are framing the no for now as a deep commitment to quality.
Exactly. You are saying, I care about the work too much to do a bad job on it. You are running a small experiment. You are testing the hypothesis that you are only valuable if you are a machine. You do a little less, you protect your energy, and you observe what happens. Hey, people still respect me. The business didn't collapse. That evidence helps you drop the costume a little more next time.
And what about for the people pleaser? The one who is constantly running that predictive regulation simulation in their head.
Their small adjustment is to stop scanning for just 1 minute. In a meeting, instead of trying to read the emotional state of every person in the room, just focus on the content of what's being said. Or, even braver, dare to disagree. Politely, but authentically.
Just a simple, I actually see it a little differently.
Yes. For a chronic people pleaser, that is a terrifying sentence. But it's an act of reclaiming your own space in the room. You are essentially turning off that background app for a moment. You're saying, I am going to exist in this room as myself, not as a carefully curated reflection of what I think you need me to be.
It seems like all of these strategies at their core are about shifting what we value, shifting our personal definition of success.
That is the ultimate goal. And it is strategy number 3, the shift from external to internal metrics.
Unpack that for me. What does that mean in practice?
Right now, if you're suffering from identity fatigue, your internal metric for a good day is likely completely external. You get to 5 p.m. and you ask yourself, did I meet everyone's expectations? Was everyone happy with me? Did I look competent and in control?
Right. Did I get the applause? Did I get the validation?
The shift is to start measuring your day by internal metrics. At 5 p.m., you ask, did I honor my own needs today? Did I spend my energy on things that actually matter to me? Do I feel drained and depleted? Or do I feel energized and aligned?
But I can hear the objection right now. I can hear listeners, I can hear Sarah saying, that sounds nice and self-helpy, but I have a job to do. I have a team to lead. I can't just think about my feelings all day. That's self-indulgent.
That is always the biggest objection, and it is the biggest lie that keeps people trapped. The source, and frankly just common sense, argues that this shift isn't about being selfish, it's about being sustainable.
Sustainable.
Think about the empty shell we talked about. If Sarah continues on her current path in identity fatigue, she will eventually break. She will burn out for real, or she'll quit impulsively, or she'll get physically sick, or she'll become so bitter and resentful that she becomes a toxic leader who alienates her whole team.
Right. An empty shell isn't a good leader.
An empty shell isn't a good anything. By prioritizing her internal state, by refusing to operate from a place of depletion, she actually becomes more valuable to everyone around her. She shows up as a real person. She has real energy, not fake, caffeine-fueled performance energy.
So protecting your own authenticity is actually an act of service to the people who rely on you.
It is the ultimate act of service. A grounded, rested, authentic leader is infinitely more effective and inspiring than a frantic, exhausted, performing one. Your kids don't want a perfect, exhausted zombie for a parent. They want a messy, happy parent who is present. Your team doesn't want an omniscient robot for a boss. They want a human being they can trust and connect with.
That is such a crucial reframe. It's not me versus the work. It's me being real and rested so that I can actually do the work well.
That's it, exactly.
So let's bring this all together. Let's synthesize. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We certainly have.
We started this deep dive by realizing that the tiredness so many of us feel isn't always about a lack of sleep. It's about the heavy, invisible lifting of carrying a false identity. We learned that we aren't just burned out. We might be overacted.
We really unpack the difference between workload and performance. We use that analogy of the glitching background app draining the battery and the beach ball being held underwater. Workload makes you tired. Performing a false identity makes you empty.
Then we looked at those 3 big pillars of performance: performing strength, the burden of omniscience, the trap of reliability, and the fear of being useless that drives it. and people-pleasing, that exhausting game of predictive regulation. These are the main costumes we force ourselves to wear.
And we identified the signs to look for in ourselves. The dread that creeps in on a Sunday night, the silent resentment toward people asking for help, and that hollow feeling of being empty despite external success.
And finally, and most importantly, we mapped out a path forward, one that doesn't involve moving to a cave. It involves awareness, the pause. It involves small, scary, but manageable moments of dropping the act, saying, I don't know, saying, no, not right now, and starting to measure your day by your own truth, not by someone else's applause.
It's all about the slow, steady process of returning to yourself.
The source ends with that quote we mentioned earlier, and I just want to read it one last time because it really anchors everything we've talked about. You can't rest properly when you're exhausted from being someone you no longer are.
It's a call to action, really. It asks us to have the courage to update our own self-definition.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with the so what? Why does this matter right now, today, on February 14th, 2026?
We live in a world of immense pressure and highly curated images. Social media, professional branding, personal branding, everything in our culture pushes us to perform a version of ourselves. And in that environment, maybe the bravest thing you can do, and certainly the healthiest thing you can do, is to just gently drop the act.
And with that, I have a final challenge for you, the listener. A provocative thought to carry with you into your weekend.
Let's hear it.
We talked a lot about fear. The fear that if you stop performing, if you drop the beach ball, everything will fall apart. So here is the question I want you to sit with. If you stop performing the role of the reliable, perfect, successful person for just 24 hours, what is the absolute worst, most catastrophic thing you fear would happen?
And really visualize it. Don't just give a vague answer. What does the catastrophe look like?
Does the business actually dissolve overnight? Does your family pack their bags and leave you? Does everyone you know suddenly hate you?
Or does mostly nothing happen?
And here's the final part of the question. What if that catastrophe you fear is actually just the beginning of your freedom? What if letting that ball drop is the only way to realize you don't have to be the one catching everything all the time?
That's a scary thought, but a deeply liberating one.
Something to mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stop acting, start living, and we will catch you on the next one.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.